Here we go, it's another West London VR race preview.
This is Ascot Legoland. We're outside Ascot Racecourse. If you're not from the UK, you may not be aware of Ascot. It is one of the biggest, most prestigious race courses, that's horse racing, in the UK. It hosts a very big meeting during the summer called Royal Ascot, of which the Queen attends, and it's the place to get invited to if you can get into the royal enclosures. In fact, they build extra stands at the other end. We're at the top end of the course. You can see here all the stables buildings just to your left. We'll shortly pass the main stand and go right down to the sort of turn, if you like. It's this triangular course, of which this is one side. And when we turn, they do build extra stands down there for Royal Ascot, and all the sort of, I suppose, people lower down the pecking order for tickets end up at that end, if that's the politest way of putting it. There's the main stand on your left, as you can see. It's quite a big race course. But Royal Ascot is huge, and they get full every day, and it's they sell a lot of champagne, shall we say. There are a lot of drunk people. I did make the mistake of riding my bike once during a Royal Ascot meeting, and it was not great, shall we say. I will certainly make sure I'm aware when it's on next time. As you can tell, probably not a horse racing fan. But as I say, Ascot is a very big race course. The Ascot Gold Cup, I believe, is the big race there, and it hosts both flat racing and jump racing during the winter. The flat racing in the summer, of course. This is the high street. Funny enough, I just came up the other way, and there was some guy in a Porsche driving very slowly so that everybody could admire his car. And on the way back, I found this guy in a Bentley doing exactly the same, making sure that everybody could spot him cruising along Ascot High Street in his Bentley. So things got slowed down for a little while, and there we are. I did get around him, luckily enough. I mean, he was going so slow that it was quite easy. Right, so down to the end of Ascot High Street, and as I say, for the Royal Ascot meeting, the stands would come all the way down here. You can see car parks on your left there, so we're still at the side of the race course. That's where those fences are for. But we'll hit some roundabouts in a moment, and we'll hang a left, and we'll go down another side of the race course, which is, as I say, a triangular race course. So you get two of the three sides are going to be ridden today. And in fact, there is another straight sort of kind of short course that goes off and sort of goes off at a tangent, if you like. We're about to cycle underneath that. There's a bridge over the road, and that is a straight course that sort of goes, I suppose, eastwards, and finishes in front of the main stands, which are now to our left. So here we are. This bridge is solely to carry that one straight sort of kind of sprint course over the road. In the old days, they used to close the road to let the horses go over, and in fact that's the course that the Queen arrives in her open carriage as it does head down towards Windsor Castle, which of course is one of the royal homes. So that's, as I say, is going down the second side of Ascot. Now, in terms of racing, this is going to be a virtual race on RGT. Ascot High Street is ever so slightly downwards, so it's slightly downhill. I don't think it'll be very noticeable. That little dip there probably won't notice too much. I mean, the only reason we're particularly climbing at the moment is because the road dipped down to go under the bridge where the horses race over. So it's sort of generally flat, perhaps slightly inclining here, but nothing significant. So it should be fast and pacey over this section. I'm not expecting anything too difficult on this course generally. I mean, there are a couple of little places where I think attacks are worthwhile, but certainly not round the race course and round Winkfield where we are at the moment. Now, this road, as I say, will take us up to the end of this particular part of the racecourse. You can see the white fence is, you know, the railings from the horse racing track just through the fence there. And this was filmed in February, and so obviously you can see there's no leaves on the trees, so it's you can see through to the racecourse a little bit better than you can in the summer when all those hedges start filling out with leaves. So here we are coming up towards the end of the road. I mean, the racecourse bends round and does the other side of the triangle, if you like, up that way. But we're going to go with a bit of jiggery pokery straight across these two little roundabouts and head towards Winkfield. I don't know a lot about Winkfield. I do remember actually going over to France to do one of the L'Etape du Tours, and I was staying in the hotel, and I think I was speaking at one of the dinners. One of the evenings were there, and there was a guy whose wife was the vicar of one of the Winkfield churches. So there is a cycling connection. Not sure that she still is. I think they might have moved on, but there we are. So as you can see, this is you know, a fairly bright sunny day for February. In fact, the temperature wasn't too bad either. As we go up through these areas, there's sort of a little bit of connections to horse racing here and there. I mean, you will see the odd horse racing sort of breeder or trainer on the course. As I say, it's not necessarily horse racing territory in the way that perhaps Lambourne is down in Newbury, but it's you know, there are bits and pieces around here. Two race courses locally, actually. There's another one in Windsor. So if you do like horse racing, it's not a bad place to be. In fact, the Windsor one, many years ago, used to survive on just having evening meetings. It isn't the greatest race course, but the fact it used to run evening meetings when other people didn't used to make it quite popular, and people used to go there after work. I'm not sure that's such a big USP for them now, because in the modern days, betting shops and online betting is open 24 hours. So meetings like that are probably less common, less unique, I should say, than before. So as you can see, it's still fairly flat along this stretch of road, and we're going to hang a left shortly, which similarly will be fairly flat. So nothing particular. I mean, other than, you know, if your average pace is faster than other people, then obviously I think this is going to split into groups along here. It's not. I think there'll be large groups rather than any sort of major fragmentation. I just think it will find its natural selection, and you know, you'll find the group that you're, you know, it's supposed to be in. I think, other than if you've had some sort of mishap at the start or something like that. Remember always with these races, the starts are fast, and you need to be pedalling, and there are people who sometimes arrive late at the start and maybe aren't pedalling quite as hard as they should be when the proverbial gate goes up, and don't get off the line quick enough, and people are up the road. I mean, it's very difficult to catch up on these virtual races. Yes, I think you know, there'll be instances where you're behind a group and people will drop off a group, maybe up a hill or something like that, and you can catch them. But catching a fast group at the front is nigh on impossible if you have been dropped early on the race. So make sure you get a good start in these things. And like I say, this is probably going to comfortably sit in one or maybe two groups at this stage in a sort of selection of who's fit or not. I have to say that I did this filming I had to do it from memory, right, because I didn't have the route on my bike computer, and I did stop a couple of times just to check my bearings, so bear with me. I have edited out the stops, but there are a couple of places where this one does, you can see the bike slow down and speed up again, and that's just because basically I'm just checking on my phone where I am in relation to the turnings I'm expecting to have to take. I say this is Winkfield. It's two places. I think it's Winkfield and Winkfield Row. Not really sure what the distinction is. They are close to and near Bracknell, probably between Ascot and Bracknell. So I'd say Bracknell is what they would call a new town, although they're not very new anymore. The sort of place that was developed heavily after World War II to rehouse people out of places like London. And towns like that grew phenomenally in that era because they were building a lot of homes, to rehouse people from big cities into these new towns. There's quite a ring of them around London, and there are in other cities too. It's not an uncommon thing in the UK to find the new towns. As I say, whether or not you call them new towns anymore, because we're probably 70 years on, is a moot point. So, as I say, we're steadily flowing along this road, and in terms of strategy, it's not going to involve a lot other than just making sure you're nimble enough to stay on the group you're in. Quite scenic out here. It is this sort of slightly over. If you go to other parts of Britain, the countryside probably has kind of less in the way of sort of housing, but these areas sort of mix that combination of the legacy of farming and some nice houses in that sort of satellite around London. The same sort of thing that the if this were France, if you're French, you'd understand the Ile de Paris. This is that sort of area. It's I suppose in British parlance, it's the home counties, and it's London's overflow, if you like. But fortunately, we have been allowed to keep the farms, and the way they do this, of course, is by designating land only. Its only purpose is farming, and that devalues the land, and it makes it viable for farmers still to use the land. And you get obviously hot disputes if somebody does want to turn farmland into building land and develop housing on it, and there's usually quite a lot of opposition to that sort of thing. So we do maintain a reasonable amount of nice countryside around London, and this is quite pleasant. You can see that these roads out here in Winkfield, I think quite a few cycling clubs use these roads. There's not too many today, but I think this is sort of one of those little sections of roads where quite a few cycling clubs do rides, or solo cyclists, because it is actually quite pleasant out here. And you can ride quite fast in most of these places because, as you can see, it's reasonably flat. That changes a little bit as we will be taking a right turn shortly. Not here. This is traffic lights and a bit of editing. There we go. And after this, as I say, the right-hand turn will be coming up very, very shortly in a place called Hayley Green, which I'd never heard of. It sounds like a young girl, doesn't it? Hayley Green. Oh, I went to school with her. As I say, it's probably absorbed into the wider Bracknell and Winkfield area, but we're turning right at Hayley Green, and so that's flat. But then shortly afterwards, we do start getting the undulations, and I think that's where the attacks will happen in this race. There we are. There's a little sign for Hayley Green, and the right turn should be coming up very, very shortly, and we turn into some quite nice lanes after that before we go up towards the Fifield race circuit. When I say race circuit, it's actually a time trial course, but there's a nice loop there that people do use for crit racing. So you can get crit racing and time trials both on the Fifield course, and we're going to do the one edge of it, probably the southern edge. So that's another one of my little edits. I was just checking which road it was because it wasn't that one. And as I say, it's a bit unfortunate, but I just didn't have the route on the bike computer on the day, and it's a bit of a glitch. It should have been, but it wasn't. There we are. We learn by these things. I mean, fortunately, I had ridden this course before, or the route I planned before, about a few months ago, so I kind of knew where it went. Just wanted to be sure that I wasn't recording the wrong bits, because it's a bit embarrassing if you go down the wrong road and tell everybody, look, there's there's this dip here or something like that, and then it never materialises on the RGT course because it was the wrong road. So every effort made to make these things absolutely accurate. Now, these races that we run, they're not designed to be hilly, but we do like to put little lumps in just to sort of allow for attacks and split the pack, and give people the chance to make it interesting, so it's not a bunch sprint every time. And as I say, you've had it easy on this route till now. This little section through Haley Green is flat, but the next section of road, as we go across the little crossroads here, starts to undulate a little bit. So expect some changes. So, see white fences on the side. I'm not sure if that's one of those horse racing sort of breeders or not, actually, but didn't catch them, but possibly. Right, so we go across here, and as I say, this is where things change a little bit. It's not going to be unduly difficult, but it is it's not going to be quite as flat as it has been. As we go around the horse, always talk to the horse when you're going round, because horses can't see. Well, they might be able to hear you if you've got your free wheel buzzing or something like that. But horses, because of the way their eyes are, they can see forward. And if you suddenly whiz round them, they sometimes don't know you're there till they suddenly see them out of the corner of their eye and panic. And I was told by people who ride horses that if you do shout before you come round, the horse is very aware of you being there. And if you can keep talking as you go around the horse knows you're there and isn't going to be frightened when you suddenly come into its vision. And it's quite interesting how many horse riders thank you for doing that. I mean, I think they are generally as a group, I think they must be well aware that this is a necessity, and they are very grateful when you do it. Certainly in my experience, except for the first time I did it, when a young girl did panic when I shouted out there was a cyclist behind from about 30 yards. But aside from that, no, it's been very receptive. Now you can see this is suddenly starting to sort of climb a little bit, so you can start seeing the attack places come in. Remember on RGT that you do get the profile at the bottom of the screen, which means that the not only is you can see where the hills are, but it's coloured green for something that's fairly flat, and then starts going a sort of browny to orange colour the steeper it gets. So you can tell where they are because you'll see the colour change on the profile on the sections. So as I say, there are a few little ramps and bits and pieces here just to ensure that there are attack places. Take a note of them because I think this will be a fast race. And sometimes even the smallest ramps at speed can throw somebody off the back. And as I repeatedly say, getting back on a group is very, very difficult on RGT at high speed. Don't forget the person behind's got to work harder than the people up front. And because these races are only 16 kilometres long, think of it like a sprint. Everybody in the front is powering hard because, there isn't another 90 kilometres to go. This is where it is. You can see a little bit of a rise here again. This just puts the pressure on. And if it is a fast and furious race, which WLVR races generally are, but some faster than others, but putting the pressure on here could thin the pack down a little bit. And of course, if you lose one of your sprinting rivals, that's a good thing, because this is going to be a sprint finish. There's a little lump before the end, but it means it's sort of downhill to the finish, and it's going to be a very sprinty finish, I think. So as I say, the more people you can lose who are good at sprinting, the better your chances of winning the sprint at the end, or getting that podium place. Now, as I say, I think the decisive one will be just before the finish, but we'll point that out to you when we get there. Now, this is slightly undulating road, and it's got a nice little descent past one of those horse breeders that I was telling you about. And this is also, as I was mentioning earlier, the top end of the Fifield course. Now, the Fifield course, as I say, is probably best known as a time trial course and as a loop. This is, say, the what I call the south side of the loop, if you like. The other side of the loop is Drift Road, and if you are from this area, you'll know Drift Road. I mean, if you go along Drift Road on any day, there are loads of cyclists time trialing themselves along it, more so than this side. It is a very popular road with cyclists. So, as I say, anybody anybody from the locality will be aware of Drift Road. I mean, it's a cycling hotspot, if you like. If somebody put a cafe there, it might be even more so. It's undulating along Drift Road. It's dead straight, but it's a great place to test yourself in sort of kind of time trial mode. Not everybody on it is riding solo, head down, but you know, that's what I think it does best. It's a great road for just sort of time trialing because it's got enough undulations to put you under a bit of pressure. It's not dead flat. This side, there's a climb up to this side. So this side's the elevation is slightly higher than the other side. I think it's Hawthorne Hill is the climb as you come up. But as I say, this is the south side of it. And certainly for the crit races, when they might do more than one lap of Fifield, there's a 25 kilometre course and a 10k course. So basically one lap will cover the 10k course is the rough guide. Sorry, not 10k, 10 miles. So it's about 16k to do a lap round here. In fact, we did do one in, I think, one of the Series 1 races. We actually did the Fifield course one lap. But like I say, it's 10 miles, so it's 16k, and I think there's a 25-mile course, which is 2 and a bit laps. And as I say, many clubs put on crit races around the loop. So if there's one industry that has been doing well during the COVID lockdown, it's roadworks, as far as I can tell. And that's not such a bad thing. If there's less traffic on the roads, it's the time to dig them up, I suppose. And there's actually somebody working there. Wow. So here we go. As I say, this is the sort of north, as I say, the south side of the Fifield course. We shortly go past a horse breeder trainer, and it's called Le Cheval, French word for horse. I don't know kind of how many great horses have come out there, but you'll see that they obviously train the horses they breed as well, because there's gallops where they've got the white fences, you know, to mimic a race course, and obviously train the horses, I guess. I suspect also it might not be a bad place. I don't know lots about horse racing, but I do wonder if people, foreign horses that come to the UK to race, I suspect they've got to exercise the horses somewhere, and it may well provide a facility for them to sort of, you know, get the horses out and loosen them up a bit in the days running up to a race. Because I really don't think horses are flown in the morning of the race, I would imagine. As I say, I don't know a lot about horse racing. I do know that I generally lose if I bet on horses, but beyond that, I've been to the races enough times to probably understand how it works, but I really struggle to understand all the form and everything, and I couldn't look at a horse and give you any idea of how good it was. But there we are. Oh, it's got a nice noseband, and I like the jockey's colours. Is about as scientific as I get with my choices. Anything in blue and white hoops gets bet on. So, as I say, we continue on this south side of the course, the Fifield course. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of flattish at this bit, but there is, as I say, there are some little undulations towards the end. The challenging bit, though, is going to be when we get off the end of this road and on to the Windsor to Ascot road, which we had crossed earlier at the 2 little roundabouts near Ascot Racecourse. But so we've done a loop to the north of that road, and we're going to come back to it. And at the point we come back to it and turn onto it, that's when the climb, you know, the last, I don't know, 1.5, 2k, that climb and then that descent is going to decide the whole race, I believe. I think that's the critical point. because even where there have been little ramps here, it won't absolutely split a group. I mean, it will drop people off groups, but the hill coming up after we turn off this road, there's a little roundabout when we get to the end of this road, and as we turn left, that's when I think everybody ought to gear themselves up for what's coming next. Now, obviously on RGT, you will recognise that there is a left turn, and you will probably be looking at the profile below, so you'll know that there's a lump coming up. As I say, you need to get to the top of the lump first, because it's all about the descent down to the finish then, which will be very, very fast. So, you know, if you've dropped the sprinters on the hill, it could be all yours, who knows. So we can get some speed up down here, and as I say, there is this descent down to the bend when we go past the sort of kind of railing, or, you know, what I call the horse racing training thing. You can see on the left there the white rails where they train the horses. So we're going down the hill now. There's a sort of kind of left-hand bend at the bottom, and then it levels out again. But this is going to be a very fast section down to this bend, and alongside the, as I say, where they train the horses. So the bit just, you can see the brown wooden fence here. You can't quite see the white rails for the mock horse racing course, but the grass, you can see how flat the grass is. That's obviously where they train them. So here we go round the bend, and this then is reasonably flat. I mean, mainly flat, I would say, up until the Windsor Bagshot Road, which, or the Windsor Ascot Road, should I say. So as I say, it's not overloaded with attack points. There have been a couple so far on the road near, well, after Hayley Green, perhaps, and you know, maybe the odd place along the road we've just done, but nothing special along that section, I would say. And again, this is going to look fairly flat until we get to the end of Drift Road, and just Drift Road joins this. I say the Drift Road, which is you know, well known by cyclists around here. The start of Drift Road is actually almost at the end of this road. So as we approach the roundabout at the end, we'll see Drift Road on our left, which, as I say, is the cycling hotspot, more so than this side. I mean, I'm never quite sure why there's always less cyclists on this side of the course, because to me it's a good loop to ride, but I think people just incorporate Drift Road into another ride or something like that and just see it's a segment of the you know, longer ride. But there we are. It's without going out and doing a survey, I can't really explain that, but I'm always surprised how few cyclists there are on this side of the course. So we're heading ever closer to the end of the road, and as I say, the infamous Drift Road to our left. There's not going to be too much. There's not going to be too much to sort of plot anything along this section. I don't think it's fast. Just keep your wits about you. You know, we've all been on RGT a while now, and if you're watching and you haven't, just keep your eyes open, because if you do drift off the pack, you will struggle to get on. And I think, you know, people will now be pushing. The end will be in sight, and you know, the front guys are going to make sure that they're, you know, putting the heat down and making sure that anybody's on the limit doesn't survive in order to get themselves clear. But like I say, I think if you're struggling here, then all probabilities are that you're going to struggle on the little bit of a ramp that takes us up to the lump, where we're going to have this sort of fast descent into the finish to Legoland. Legoland Windsor, this is. I think there are more than one Legolands in the UK these days, but it was the original one. And in fact, when they opened it, it was bad news for me, because the site was previously a leisure site. It was a safari park where you drove your car around, and there were lots of tigers and lions and giraffes and things, you know, in the wild, and you kept the windows up. And it was Windsor Safari Park, and I was quite interested in that because I used to hire it out every New Year's Eve and put on a big dance there, which was quite a slice of my annual income. I was a promoter in those days, and it you know, there's some very successful events there over the years, every New Year's Eve. And I can still remember the call from Windsor Safari Parks, I don't know, about September, October, saying, unfortunately, we've just been sold and we're closing down, and you can't run it this year. So at least they gave me some notice, but it was Legoland taking it over, which took my rather lucrative night away from me. So here we are, that's Drift Road on the left, and we're going to go left here at this roundabout, and that's when, I'm not sure immediately, but the climb that I'm on about, which I think is going to be decisive, assume it starts from this left turn. You'll see in a minute, it doesn't look like it's rising here. I think it is a little bit, but you'll see as we get in amongst the trees that there's clearly a horizon that you're cycling towards. And once you get over that brow, it's descent to the finishing line. In fact, this video is probably going to go on a little bit past the finishing line. I'll give you a shout where it is. So as I say, you can probably tell that it's rising a little bit from here. As I say, it's not, this isn't the decisive bit yet, but you can see it ahead. Right, you can see the brow now. So once you're over that brow, it's sprint to the finish. I say it's more, it's clear now. I think it wasn't further back, but the actual sort of going upwards starts a bit further back. You know, there's a bit of a false flat before you hit this. It's not particularly steep. I mean, it's not, you know, if you're out for a club ride and going up one of the sort of 20% hills in the locality, you know about it. But with these things, nobody would sit there and say this is a hill. But the point is that it is an uphill stint in one of these races, and that's enough to make the difference between you winning and not winning. Because WLVR races are designed to be not totally flat, but you know, they're not designed to be hill climb tests. They're at the other end of it. It's certainly by you know, Grand Tour classifications, they would be deemed sprinters' days, and that's what they're designed to do. We don't split it into groups, and you know, you're not a grade A or grade B rider. Everybody rides together. It finds its own natural level. Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes you go on these virtual races on other channels, and people who are quite clearly a category higher will drop down to another category to win, which I think is kind of pointless, and I think it's not great for the people who really are of that level if people from a higher level drop down to them. So I think the thing about these races is everybody finds themselves in a group of their natural level most of the time. So we're not far from the finish now. We are descending, and as you can probably tell, it's getting faster and faster and faster. The finishing line is around about, I'm actually going to go past the roundabout, although that's where I finished the race, and just ride into Legoland, or at least not quite into Legoland, but certainly, you know, maybe a few hundred metres, or not a few hundred metres, about 100 metres into it, just to show you how the entrance looks, if you like. It was closed at the time, and it was a COVID thing. So it slightly flattens out just before here. You can see the roundabout sign, and just beyond the white sign coming up is where the roundabout is. You can see the black and white chevrons, which is the finishing line. So slightly flat on the end, but as I say, you've had that long descent down to this sort of slightly flat bit where we are going to finish. And here it is. You can see written on the road there, Legoland. And as I say, those black and white chevrons on the roundabout represent the finishing line. So that's it. That's the finish. This is the entrance to Legoland. It's if one is a safari park, you used to have to go through a little booth and pay here, but they seem to have moved the point where you actually enter the park a little bit back for Legoland, and they've actually got a little hotel here, which is where I'm going to stop. I don't remember that being there when it was the safari park, but there we are. So here we are. that's where I'm going to stop. The finish was back at the roundabout. Good luck on the day. See you on the line. Bye.